Hello everybody, it's Gary Stuckey with Steve Perry News. I've been doing this channel for the past 4 years in the hopes that Steve Perry would rejoin Journey, or at least work with Neil again. So many ups and downs and hopes. You see things happen, you wonder if this is going to happen. May this happen today? You wonder, right? But if you go back and watch some of my videos, I got some new subscribers that maybe haven't seen a lot of videos that I've posted, but some of those are really makes you, wonder, makes you think about some things, some deep thoughts with Gary Stuckey. A lot of the stuff I've posted about a lot, but go back and check those out. There's a video that I did. I think it's one of the main videos on the page. When you go to this page, it's like the featured video. Check that one out. But the bottom line, to summarize, if you haven't been watching me for the past 4 years, there's some things I brought up. The fact that the song No Racing is about Journey. I watched the Jim Kerr interview with Steve Perry, and Jim's a very smart guy, and he is great at interviewing, but he tries to get Steve to admit that he may sing with Journey again, that there's some things that, he's trying to pull out of him. Very cool things, but he knows that the song is about Journey. Something to hide. Ironically, he's got something to hide. It's been a long time. Traces in my mind. A long time since I saw your face. Traces in my mind, I know. So check that out. Of course, I talked about the song anyway from the album For the Love of Strange Medicine. In my previous videos, I've mentioned Joseph Campbell. Steve is big on Joseph Campbell. He does the, monomyths and the stories with myths and narratives and things like that. Steve is big on that. And interestingly enough, Joseph Campbell died about the time Steve left Journey. Joseph Campbell has the book Hero's Journey, and I'll put a diagram of that. Very interesting things about, bottom line is the hero leaves home, he goes on an adventure, he has some mentors, like Herbie Herbert, all these people. It's like he leaves home, it's like a false start. Steve's friend gets killed, so he doesn't get to finish the band, the alien project, so he goes back home. I mean, it's very interesting things that happen that parallel this hero's journey. It's kind of interesting. But Steve is big on that Joseph Campbell stuff, in the Traces album cover. It's got little hints of that, But I've said it in my previous videos, Traces, alternate versions and sketches, but that cover is different. The Traces album has different things that tie in, some Joseph Campbell things there too, if you'll catch them. But on this one, he's got acoustic guitar, perhaps the one he wrote the song Patiently with Neil Schon when they met for the first time. On the left side, on the right-hand side, he's got Jonathan Cain's piano when they first wrote their first song together. I believe it was Who's Crying Now. So you've got Neil Schon over here with Patiently, Who's Crying Now on the right, and this little path that they're going down. You can see the path on that album cover, but if you'll notice, there's like a little pearl, a jewel, shining on the left-hand side. And I was reading about Joseph Campbell, some interesting things. Check this out. In A Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell writes, "It is by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The very cave you're afraid to enter turns out to be the source of what you are looking for." If you'll listen to the interview with Steve and a guy from WGN, I'll post the link in the description of this video. But the guy asked Steve, do you think you'll ever sing with Journey again? And he says that usual statement about, I like where I'm at now, and things like that. But he said, we'll see what happens as he ventures, out into the abyss. And he's leaving that abyss. He's in that abyss. He's going out finding that treasure. That treasure's over here. And it happens to have Neil Schon and Jonathan Cain on either side of that treasure. There's the sunset. Go out to the abyss, see what happens for the rest of his life. So there's the abyss. There's Neil Sean, Jonathan Cain, that pearl, that jewel. There's the sunset. That's the rest of his life out there in front from that sketches that traces alternate versions and sketches album cover. Just something to think about, right? So could it be that jewel, that pearl, that treasure that Steve is looking for? You know, he left Journey back in 1987, and something tells me that his whole plan, his whole idea was to go back to Journey and stay with Journey and finish it on out. You know, he made a promise to his mother that he'd go back to Journey. And on his solo albums, he would say, the promise continues. So there's a promise in the secret promise that he told his mother. You know, I don't know everything he said to his mom. I don't know all the secrets. But something tells me that it's about Journey. And the fact that Steve is now talking to Neil, I think that there's a promise that he's going to come back to. You know, he didn't get to fulfill it this last time. Things happened. He hurt his hip. It didn't work out like he planned. And there was a stall and a delay in that whole thing. The timing had to be right. You know, and when Steve did interviews with CBS, he would say something like, if you ask me right now, would I rejoin Journey? The answer is no, right now. Right? And also that promise that Steve made to his mom, on her grave, it says in Portuguese, it says, my jewel, right? So that's his treasure. And maybe that promise to go back to Journey, to get back with Journey, to keep that promise. That's what I've been thinking about. But reunions are a good thing. But to me, this seems like the best opportunity for it to happen. The 50th anniversary, I believe it was planned the whole time. I believe that was in Steve's plan, especially as he reads Joseph Campbell, that whole hero's journey, you know. And one big thing, though, that I've noticed, that Steve had a lot of trauma, a lot of things happened in his life, you know. He lost his friend, the bass player in Alien Project. He lost, he had dealings with Sherry, his girlfriend, you know, things like that. His mama passed away. He left the band, things like that. So when you're talking about traumatizing experiences with Steve, and he lost the love of his life, Kelly, you know, put all that together. He has to have therapy, therapist talking to him. He has to deal with things like that, of course, in a way that I've been reading, and I've posted this in other videos, a way to deal with these things. There's this thing called, I guess it's narratology. You come up with a narrative about your life. And that's where the Joseph Campbell comes in, right? When you have a narrative about your life. And sometimes the narratives, you kind of create your own narrative. And that's why Steve kind of omitted some of the parts of his life out when he was doing his new interviews, coming back, you know, from after all these years, traces. He kind of omitted a bunch of stuff. He left some stuff out because the bottom line, the basic points of his life was all that happened before Journey, during Journey, and then right after. So he left Journey in 87. He stopped and he went on his own, kind of like in the Joseph Campbell story, the hero's journey. He ventures out, he leaves, right? And his plan was to come back to Journey, just like that hero's journey, that diagram. It's part of that whole narrative. He comes back to Journey. So that didn't fit the narrative. It didn't fit the narrative for him to hurt his hip and be out of the band. But what fits the narrative? That's why he left off at 1987. His whole plan is to come back to Journey. Now, is it for just a song or two? Is it for a little while? I don't know. But that whole point was the return. That's a part of Joseph Campbell's plan, this part in his mind, that narrative. is for Steve to return to Journey. That's something to think about. Something to think about for next year. Hey, don't stop believing, right? Hey, thanks for subscribing and for watching this channel for the past 4 years. The journey continues. Hey, whatever you do, don't stop believing. God bless you.